Well, over the last few weeks we've been learning different picture elements. We've learned clouds and mountains and trees, and this week we're going to work a bit with waterfalls and kind of a rivery type water. So I don't know if rivery is actually a word, but we're going to come up here, and remember, I'm using lecturer's chalk, which is 1 inch square by there it is, 1 inch square by 3 inches long. You can get that from eternityarts.com, and you can also order the paper. The paper I'm drawing on is called bogus paper, and it's recycled newsprint, but it works really well for chalk like this. Now, if you don't have those and you still want to do this, soft pastels and pastel paper will work pretty much the same way as these chalks will. The main difference is lecturer's chalk is a lot softer than even soft pastels, and so it will, my description of it is it has a buttery feel as it goes on, because it's really a very, very soft chalk and almost feels like painting with your fingers. But now I have toned my paper, and because this is a practice, an improv drawing, I'm not really worrying too much about the sky today. I'm not going to be putting clouds in. I just want to experiment a little bit with water and waterfalls. So let's begin by throwing in a distant mountain. I could do that different ways. I'm going to do it with a light blue, because the mountain is so far away. The atmosphere has made it tough for all that mountain color to come through, so we're getting just a very nice soft blue in our mountain. Now remember that basic mountain shape is an upside down V, but it's kind of squashed out, unless you're drawing the Matterhorn or something like that. Okay, I'm going to soften the bottom edge, and I'm going to throw in a little yellow, and that's just to give a feel of foliage at the bottom of the mountain. And you can use that same technique to get a feel for fog at the bottom of the mountain. You would just use a gray piece of chalk. Okay, I've got a little tiny chunk of light peach, and I'm going to add some highlights on the side of the mountain. Now, light peach, remember, this is not supposed to be snow. This is just giving the mountain a little bit of definition. Okay, this is light hitting one side of the mountain. You can draw snow-capped mountains, and one of these future podcasts will show how to make that look realistic. But for starters, we just want a basic mountain shape. The next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to use some turquoise, sort of a medium value blue, and I'm going to draw in just some real distant trees. Now the motion for trees, remember, is kind of an overhand circular motion. You want variety, so make sure that it's not just a uniform looking line there. And again, not a lot of detail. Not going to put a lot of highlighting or anything on these. If you want to add in a pine tree or two, and you go with a straight line, make it more of a triangular shape. Going down, you'll get the feel for pine trees. Again, I will come in and soften this just a bit. Okay, and then I'm going to again come in and cut a line in here to give us a feel of pasture land or something back there in the distance. Way up in the mountains. And then we're going to add our waterfall. I'm going to use the same blue that I used for the mountains, and I'm just going to pick a place right here where I'm just going to have a little bit of water coming down. Now, I don't want to come real far with this, because if I do, it's going to bring the whole thing into the foreground. So I'm just going down a little bit, just a little waterfall. This isn't one of those great big 500-foot new waterfalls. We can draw that in a future time. I just want a little suggestion, a little hint of a waterfall. Come in here and use my yellow-green again to kind of give a little bit more definitive picture there of where the grass ends and the waterfall begins. Okay, just a little bit there. Now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring a tree line in, because what I want to do is kind of create the idea of a spring or a creek or a little mountain river coming here, hitting a waterfall, and then there's going to be some land, you know, in between that first waterfall and this one. So I'm going to leave my gap here this time, and I'm going to draw right over the bottom of that waterfall, just like that. Okay, remember, I'm using the side of the chalk, and I'm using, as much as possible, a sharp edge. Okay, I'm going to come in again and soften the bottom area here. And I will use my yellow-green to throw in a few highlights, just so that we get the feel of trees here. And then I'm going to come with that same blue, and again just some sharp downward strokes here. Get my second waterfall in. Okay, let's take a little lighter green this time. It's actually kind of a medium green in between the yellow green and the dark green that I used. Okay, I'm going to draw again I'm basically going to cut in a grass line, if you want to call it that. Okay, going to come up here and let's tweak these trees, hit a little bit of highlighting on them, just up high. Okay, one thing I don't like about this, and this is one of the great things with chalk, because if you see something that you really don't like, you can change it. Right now, okay, my water is way up here, but my grass line is here. So the water actually has to kind of run uphill and then down. So that's not going to work. So what do you do? Well, again, I've said it before, but that's the great thing about chalk. You can just erase it. Okay, so I'm going to erase it here. Let's bring that waterfall down here. And I need to erase a little bit of this green here. Okay, and I have now moved the water down more to where it ought to be. Okay, so what do we do with the background back here? Well, again, we don't want to make it too dark, because it's going to, that's going to pull it forward, and we want to keep it in the background. So I'm just going to come in here, fill in with a little bit of that same yellow green that I've used, and I kind of keep that off in the distance. I come in with a little bit of white, and I'm just putting a white line in there to suggest maybe a little lake or something you know, back behind this second row of trees. So let's, oh, that's the wrong green, let's finish that out. Okay, and so now we've got our second waterfall started, and it's at a better level. The next thing we're going to do now is put in some rocks and sort of turn this into some rapids. Well, we have now got our second waterfall here, and I'm going to add just a little bit of white here at the top to kind of give the idea that we've got water going over rocks. Going to throw in a little bit there and just give a, again, more of a rushing water feel to that. Now we want to bring our foreground in, and again we want to put in some trees and maybe some rocks. So yeah, I think I'm going to start with some rocks. I've got some black here. It's going to be really dark. That's going to bring our foreground forward. I'm just going to draw some general rock shapes. We haven't covered rocks before, but they're basically the same technique as mountains, which means you're going to use the darker color, or your base color, to get the shapes down. And again, I'm just throwing in some shapes here that are going to be our rocks. Now we're going to cover up that sparkle a little bit, make sure our edges are good. And there are different ways to shade rocks. We could shade them with gray. I've already used some light peach up here for highlighting. We could come in with some gray, but often with rocks I like to use more of a brown. I think it just gives a nicer, little warmer feel. So I'm going to do, again, pretty much the same thing as I'm doing with mountains. I'm going to just kind of lay in some highlights on the rocks themselves. And I'm even going to come in with a little bit of my light peach. Add some highlights here. And now we've got our waterfall, our second waterfall, and we're going to have that one kind of splashing and bubbling back here. I'm using blue right now just to kind of fill in there a bit. I'm going to come in now with some white to give that feel that, you know, it's just been bubbling and crashing. I'm going to draw a straight line right there, and we're going to continue our waterfall out here. Going to again come in with a basic layer of blue, light blue. Now one thing that I'm going to do different, I'm going to take a little dark blue. I'm going to put it in here. And you can do this with black, dark blue, brown, but what I want are some colors that are going to be rocks that are underneath the water. Okay, so we've got that. I'm going to bring this right over top. I'm not pressing real hard right now. I want the colors to blend a bit as they come through. So we have a nice feel for just the idea of rocks underneath the water. Come back in. That was light blue. I'm going to do a little bit more. I'm going to add in the extra bubbles right where the water is hitting those rocks. Bring it down. And now I'm down here where is going to be my final pool where the water is coming out. Okay, so what are we going to do between here and here? Well, several things we could do. We could throw in some foliage. Again, this is all kind of improv. I haven't planned out the picture. I'm just making it up as I go. So we haven't really cut in a kind of a grass line here. Why don't we do that, see how that comes out. I kind of like that. And you see how the toning underneath is really helping to create a little bit of that, a little bit of depth to what I'm doing. And again, this is another reason why I like this big lecturer's chalk. It's almost like painting with a big brush. I'm going to come back here while I have this chalk, just add in a little bit of highlighting in the back here to give more of a definition between the grass and the trees. Okay, so come down here, I've added in a little bit of grass. I'm going to smooth lightly. I don't want to take out all the toning from underneath. And I kind of like that there. And I may come back down here and just add some more rocks in. Now I am going to be a little bit more aggressive in how I draw in the black here, because I don't want the toning underneath showing. I'm just coming in, throw that in there. The fun part of creating with chalk like this is just kind of letting your creativity go and see what you ultimately come up with. Now I don't like that there, so let's take it out. But in taking it out, I'm going to also use it, because as I use my eraser here, it's going to start picking up and look like it's reflecting some of the black that's coming right down here. So come in here, I'm going to use, that's a yellow orange, I don't want that. I'm going to use a light brown or a medium brown again to give my rocks a little bit of shape and definition. Just going to kind of cut in some highlights at that point. I might throw a little bit more yellow green here just to finish that out. Remember, I said when we do standing water, which wasn't really our primary focus, we want to make sure our horizon line or our water line is level. So I'm going to come there. I'm using my T-square. Just going to come right across here. The main thing I want, I don't want my water line to look like it's going to run off the end of the page. So I'm going to come here and through again, and then get some of the colors that you see up here. I'm going to just bring in. Whoop. Dropped my chalk. Okay, I'm not laying these in very heavy. A little bit of white there. Just bring it across. smooth it and blend it sideways with your hand. Let's finish this off again by maybe making this a little bit rougher right through here where the water is actually crashing in. And then just throw a few ripples and highlights on top. And you can go in, you can work it more. I would come in near the end and I would maybe tweak some of these shapes a little bit. Might add a little bit of highlighting here in the water. But for the most part, I'm going to consider that waterfall pretty well finished. So again, that's a quick improvisation, just playing with shapes, playing with picture elements. It's by far, far from perfect, but the idea is, get in there, get your chalk, have some fun, play with some things. Now, we've finished the sort of mini-series here on the basic picture elements. As we go forward, I'm going to draw in a much larger format, full size, and we'll look at how to take those basic picture elements and really turn them into something that's fun and attractive. So I'm glad you joined us, and I'll see you next time.